People don't like it when you stop needing them. The moment you refuse to follow their rules, to seek their approval, to play their game, they turn on you. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've stepped outside the system. The man who is self-sufficient, who cannot live in society or has no need to, is either a beast or a god. That's what Aristotle warned. And in today's world, such a person is still seen as dangerous, not because he's violent, but because he's free. Friedrich Nietzsche took this even further. He believed the man who doesn't need anyone is the greatest threat to society, not with force, but with independence. In this video, I'm going to discuss Nietzsche's argument for why the man who needs no one shakes the very foundations of the world around him. We'll dive into herd morality, self-legislation, society's fear of solitude, and how true independence can lead to power, clarity, and danger. He who seeks may easily get lost himself. All isolation is wrong, so says the herd. Nietzsche often describes society as the herd, a mass of conformists who value comfort, safety, and the approved norms. The herd mentality teaches people that striking out on your own, thinking for yourself, or living apart from the group isn't just risky. It's wrong, or even immoral. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche puts these exact words in the mouth of the crowd. The masses cry out that seeking truth alone will get you lost, and that going apart from others is a crime. His point is clear. Society instinctively shames the person who stops needing it. Modern society follows this same instinct. From childhood, we're taught that teamwork and community are good, even sacred. So anyone who consistently prefers solitude or self-reliance is quietly viewed with alarm. Consider the tech genius who drops out of school, the whistleblower who walks away from a massive corporation, the artist who isolates to work on something revolutionary. The herd labels them weird, lonely, or antisocial. Nietzsche anticipated this. To the herd, isolation is suspicious. If someone no longer needs the crowd, they cannot be controlled by it. They stand outside its emotional economy. They question the herd's values, and that alone is enough to threaten its fragile stability. In Zarathustra, when the independent spirit says, "I have no longer a conscience in common with you," the herd doesn't argue, it cries out in grief and panic. In today's world, the pattern continues, just with digital masks. Public opinion punishes outsiders, Twitter mobs erupt, gossip spreads, and just like before, the independent man finds himself outside the fence, because the herd never liked anyone who could think without it. Nietzsche celebrates the man who seeks the way to himself. But he also knows this journey demands leaving the herd behind. The greater your independence, the more unmoored the herd feels. There is a burden on that man. How? This is what I am going to discuss now. Can you give to yourself your bad and your good, and set up your will as a law over you? Terrible is aloneness with the judge and avenger of one's own law. In the passage above, Zarathustra poses a challenge to anyone seeking self-mastery. Can you truly be the judge of yourself? Can you stand alone without relying on any external authority, with your own will as your law? If your answer is yes, then you are utterly independent. But you are also terrifyingly alone. There is no one, no government, no crowd to validate you. You answer to no one but yourself. And Nietzsche warns, that kind of freedom is like being hurled into the void. This is exactly why the self-sufficient man frightens society. Most people build their sense of morality through the approval of family, faith, culture, or the state. These systems create a kind of moral consensus, a shared story of right and wrong. But the independent man rejects all of it. He sets up his will as a law over him, and in doing so declares, "I owe no one justification, not even the herd. My conscience is my own." Nietzsche compares this kind of person to a star thrown into the icy void. Once you commit to being your own lawmaker, you are no longer tethered to anything outside yourself. You are free, but utterly exposed. Governments prefer citizens who obey. Churches prefer followers who agree, but the self-legislating individual breaks the sacred contract of conformity. And Nietzsche knew that institutions fear him for that reason. That's why society often attacks or discredits such people. They're accused of narcissism, arrogance, or even immorality. Why? Because a person who makes his own rules must also live by them. And a man who follows only himself upends the entire moral order. Nietzsche even warns that not all rebellion is noble. Escaping the yoke of external authority is not enough. What matters is why you broke free. A former slave who escapes for shallow reasons is no hero. The real question is, free for what? Keep in mind, the self-sufficient man is also a double-edged figure. Free, but frightening. Because if even one person can stand entirely alone and still define good and evil for himself, then who needs the priests, the politicians, or the herd at all? And there comes hate towards him, which I am going to discuss now. There are feelings which seek to slay the lonesome one. If they do not succeed, then must they themselves die. Nietzsche paints a vivid picture of how the crowd reacts to the solitary rebel, with hate, fear, and seething resentment. By feelings, he means the dark impulses of envy, moral outrage, and unspoken self-loathing, the emotions that society unleashes when it cannot control or imitate the one who dares to stand alone. When society cannot destroy the independent person directly, it turns on the feelings he awakens in them, by trying to crush him instead. People persecute what they cannot become. A strong, self-sufficient individual disturbs the comfort of the herd. He stirs up what others have buried, and so they turn on him. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche shows how this plays out. The envious whisper, "How dare you be different?" The moralist condemns, "Your freedom is immoral, even the good and just." Those proud champions of social virtue reject him. Nietzsche warns that these same people would rather crucify those who create their own virtue than admit their own limitations. To them, conformity is righteousness. And nonconformity? It's a threat to everything they believe is good. Envy and hostility follow closely. The free spirit's autonomy becomes unbearable to those still bound by external approval. Nietzsche writes, "The higher you rise, the smaller do you appear to the eye of envy." Amidst all this chaos, there is something very powerful that comes out of being an independent, in solitude, which I am going to discuss now. You lonesome one, you go the way of the creating one. A god will you create for yourself out of your 7 devils. The self-sufficient man is not just a threat. He is a creator. Solitude, Nietzsche says, is not just a punishment. It is a crucible. The one who walks alone, who faces his demons, who does not flee from himself, gains the power to create something new. The creator doesn't just escape the system, he has the potential to replace it, to build an entirely new world, alone. If morality is no longer enforced from above, if one man can invent meaning in a meaningless world, then every institution trembles. Tradition, law, different faiths, all of it stands vulnerable. Nietzsche admired those rare individuals who had the strength to do this. Prophets, philosophers, artists, people who went into the void and returned with something new. This is the Übermensch, the overman, the one who doesn't just reject old values, but creates new ones. In today's world, we still see this path. A lone programmer in a garage invents the next revolution. A writer publishes online, with no publisher, no permission. At first, they're ignored, then mocked, then feared. But if their work survives, it reshapes the world. Nietzsche foresaw this. If you would be a star, You must shine for them nonetheless, even if the light hurts them. The solitary creator is also the lover, not in the romantic sense, but in the Nietzschean one, the one who loves himself enough to create. But that love is not soft. It involves pain, rejection. You must despise parts of yourself in order to grow beyond them. You must leave behind what once gave you comfort. As Nietzsche puts it, with your love and with your creating, go into your solitude, my brother. And he even weeps with joy for the one who dares to create, even if it destroys him. Anyway, there's one thing you should keep in mind. Being independent with a new idea isn't always heroic. As Aristotle warned, a man who is isolated must be either a beast or a god. People who break away from society sometimes become the worst kind of monsters. You can see this in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, where Raskolnikov tries to become an Übermensch, a man above conventional morality. But in doing so, he ends up murdering not just one, but 2 women. His belief that he could create his own law led to destruction, guilt, and breakdown. If you want to understand what happened to him, I've made a whole video on that. Check it out on the end screen. In the end, it's up to you. If you step outside the herd, will you rise like a god or fall like a beast?